We are delighted that you're joining us for another podcast of Wake Up Aligned, and it is the podcast for chiropractors, where we get to talk about chiropractic lifestyle, and topics of interest. You can contact us through our email, and that is mailbag@amcfamily.com. Well, welcome back to another episode of Wake Up Aligned, and I know for a fact you're going to really engage with this episode, this podcast, because the subject matter is something that we hear a lot and we talk a lot about inside of our profession. And that subject is new patients, right? How many times, Tom, have you had somebody come to you and say, "Oh, I just need some marketing. I just need new patients, new patients, new patients, new patients." Now, you and I both know there's a lot more to cover than just feeding a bunch of new patients through the office. But I thought it was, you had an idea to do this podcast. I thought it was brilliant because I know for me, showing up at the office every day, the stuff that I should be paying attention to becomes background to me, and I'm not really aware of what the new patient is experiencing when they come through the office. So I'm very excited for this podcast. Anything you want to say about it before we get into it?
I don't have anything necessarily to say before we get into it. I'm just ready to get into it. So just where would you like to start?
Right.
You tell me.
I'll tell you where I'd like to start. I'd like to start by talking about a really wonderful AMC aligned family member. And this young lady she's a human dynamo. I don't think she understands and really realizes how many people she inspires just by the example that she sets. And it has not always been easy for her. She has challenges like the rest of us, but she's been dealing with quite a bit of challenges of late. Now, she doesn't ever want to be acknowledged for the challenges. She wants to be acknowledged and patted on the back for the victories and the results. But we recently acknowledged Dr. Harmony Dawson at our FAB Summit in Orlando, because her office had the most new patients inside of our company for all of 2021. And she obliterated the quote-unquote competition. I think she was several hundred ahead of the second place finisher. So Dr. Harmony, you're a tremendous individual. You are certainly a pleasure to work with. And we are in awe of what you did in 2021, what you continue to do even this year, and you're covered in a lot of prayer, but we just appreciate who you are and how you approach this thing called life. You are a walking example to a lot of people, and just wanted to give her a quick shout out and praise report for the results there, Tom.
Give her the praise. That's all great. Shout out, but more importantly, just tell her how much we love and appreciate her. She's loved, appreciated, and valued in this family, and she's very special. Clearly one of my favorites, inside this family.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good segue to new patients. We go from the leader in new patients in 2021 to now what's on your heart. So I'll turn it over to you, and I'll try to keep up.
Well, you just said we talk about the leader of new patients, and it's not the number of new patients that you get, it's the number of new patients that you keep. All right. And when we were preparing for this episode, it's just fascinating to me how many times this formula comes up, because you said one of the favorite subjects in our profession over and over and over. Doesn't matter your technique, your philosophy, where you graduated. Everyone seems to think my answer is new patients, marketing. I need new patients. When realistically, if you just learned how to keep the new patients that were already coming in the door for a longer period of time, you wouldn't have to process and run through so many through the door, and you would more than likely increase, if not double, your practice in short order. So while new patients are important, they are not the end all. And that formula that I'm talking about is you can't escape it. All right. If you're a listener and you're in practice or you're a student and you're going to be in practice one day, I promise you, you can't escape this formula of business. It's happening right here, right now, today, as you listen to it. It's waiting for you at the office. And that is when efficiency breaks down, proficiency is going to break down. That's your quality of work. When proficiency breaks down, your productivity, that's your sheer volume of work that you can do. The last thing that's going to be affected is your profitability. All right. Now, there's 1,000 different ways that efficiency can break down, but a lot of it starts with the model of practice. And if you have an inefficient model of practice, it's going to constantly force you to be looking for profit. See, of those four, Dr. Shannon, efficiency, proficiency, productivity, profitability, which one of those four does the chiropractor always look to first? Profit. I need more profit. So I need more new patients. And actually what you need is an efficient approach that allows you to be proficient and productive, and then you will have more profit without having to expend so much money and so much energy going after the new patient. Now, with that said, yes, we need to process new patients. Yes, new patients are an important aspect, component to any given practice. But I said it's more important than not how many are coming in, it's how many are staying. And it's a retention factor. All right. So it doesn't matter if you are Harmony Dawson and you broke the annual record, or at least you broke the record for the year, or had the most, right? Doesn't matter if you're Harmony Dawson or if you're somebody like I've recently given a shout out to Dr. Chris Hoffman here in Jacksonville, and where he's launching into his new career and so on. And he's processing his first 100 new patients, right? Inside the first few months of his office being opened. It doesn't matter if it's Hoffman or Dawson. Both of them, it's still, everybody ready for this? It's still a numbers game. New patients is still a numbers game. It's how many new patients can you acquire? How many can you book? And the processes that it takes for you to book that new patient. How many can you actually get to walk through the door? Because not everybody that books is going to come through the door. So there's processes, efficient processes to do that. Then once they're there, then you have to process them through a new patient procedure. And then it's how many do you get to keep? And then it's the patient compliance factors that retain them and then eventually get them to ultimately refer, correct, Shannon? You want them to refer, so we're not back all the way at the beginning doing marketing and getting marketing new patients, because that's quality of new patients. So, right, it's not just the number of new patients, it's the quality of those new patients, and it is a numbers game. So it's, for example, if you get 20 new patients, well, what was the cost of those 20? That's something that I'm going to want to know from an efficiency standpoint. Where did they come from? And of those 20, how many can I get to come through the door? Of those, how many can I get them to accept care? How many can I get them to follow through with care? How many of them can I get them to replicate themselves to referral? So see what I mean? It's all, yes, they're individuals. Yes, there's the healthcare side of it. I get it. But then there's just a simple business side of it. The business side of it, they're people, and we can't ever undervalue that's a person and it's not a number. I don't like going down this road too much because my heart is with the people, right? And doing right by people. But at the same time, from a business perspective, I'm not trying to be everything to everybody. I'm not going to let the minority affect the majority. I'm not going to get so focused on out of 10 people that 1 or 2 didn't accept care. I'm going to recommend the best. I'm going to expect the best. I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. I'm not going to wheel and deal with every new patient just to get them to sign on the line. But if I'm doing it in a practical manner, a systematic approach, I can count on, I know you talked on stats, how going into each month, how important it is to know how many patient visits are already on the books. I do that because I can expect on my new patient process that of the 10 that walk in the door and go through the process, I know I can keep about an average of 8, right? And then how many of those are going to be with me 90 days, 6 months later, and so on. So ultimately what I was trying to get to is that the new patient experience is something that no matter if you're Dr. Hoffman or Dr. Dawson, how often are you reviewing that new patient experience? So that's what I'm going to pause on today. Like I said, there's 1,000 different ways I can talk about efficiency, and I can talk about the numbers game of new patients and quality of new patients and the retention of those new patients. But the new patient experience is something that should be reviewed no matter if you're a veteran practitioner or if you're a new practitioner. You should review that since new patients is such a critical component to every practice. You can get lost in the minutia of daily practice, the daily grind. I've got 7 first reports. I've got 3 second reports. I've got re-exams. I see 50 patients today. I've got a staff meeting to do. I've got a health talk to do in the neighborhood. I mean, not in the community, tomorrow. And then I got a screening this weekend, you just get caught up in the motion of the practice and not realize that, hey, there's somebody coming in this door or booking an appointment at this office for the first time. This may be my 4,647th experience in the new patient experience, but what is that patient experience? And that's really what I wanted to talk about today, because that's a part of your efficiency. That's part of your numbers, right? What I do when I approach a practice is I want to manage it from a standpoint. All I'm doing is removing speed bumps. I'm removing obstacles, right? I'm not trying to, when I look at this detail, am I trying to fix 1 out of every 5 new patients come in the door? Hopefully not. But if I can affect 1 out of the next 20, this experience is going to have a negative effect on my ability to deliver lifetime chiropractic care to them, then it's worth the exercise, right? So my question to the listener is, and as I say this, understand that if you don't know how to do it, then that's why you look to your mentors with AMC and Aligned. But, when was the last time that you actually called into your office, had a friend or a spouse call into the office and record the new patient booking? If they don't call in, right? If they don't call in and they book it through an online process, when was the last time you actually walked through that booking an appointment process? What's the images? What's the display? Does your website look outdated? Is it current? Does it provide, is it efficient? Is it at any point, could it be improved? Could there be testimonials on there? Could there be reinforcements that reinforce the likelihood that new patient's going to follow through and show up? Or, how many staff members are losing the new patient in the booking process because you're so busy seeing the 7 first reports and the 2 second reports and the re-exam re-x-rays that you don't realize that they're not following the processes and procedures that you're expecting because you're asleep at the wheel. And I see that you have something to share there. I'm not done with the new patient experience, but you obviously have something you want to share there, Dr. Shannon.
Well, as you were talking about that, I distinctly remember there are times where we will do this exercise on the mentor side or the CA coaching side, where we will place a call to offices as a new patient, and we're not being hard to deal with. We're just asking the normal questions that you would expect a new patient to ask and whatever. And when we expose that to the doctor, you see people oh no, they cannot believe that this person who knows what to do is not actually doing it in the moment. And they're not bad people, right? They're just, like you were saying, they're caught up in the busyness of the day, not really giving thought to who it is on this other end of the phone, a phone call. So this advice that you're recommending, when we do it, we always uncover opportunities for improvement. So I just wanted to affirm what you were sharing right there as a starter point.
And my next step is the new patient experience is, what's it like to drive up to your office? What's it like to find your office? If you need to bring somebody that's a friend along to ride in the car with you to get their impression, maybe somebody that's never been to your office. When was the last time you tried to get somebody to your office and they drive up and give you their first impression? What's your first impression of my parking lot? When was the last time you walked around your parking lot to see if the flower beds are overgrown? Because you're so busy and wrapped up walking in the back door of your office, going straight into your room, starting to analyze x-rays or whatever you do to get into your daily routine. When was the last time you looked at your front door? Are the hours correct? Is the image correct? How could that first impression be improved? Then you walk into the reception room. When was the last time you actually reviewed how the staff is greeting the patient? What's the process? What's the paperwork? What's the intake forms? What's that process look like? What kind of impression is being done before you ever get a chance to meet the patient in a consultation room? And now that's a total different, can of worms to open on a podcast, because if you're not a AMC Align member, for the love of Pete, we're going to get a completely different experience if you don't know what a consultation is and how to execute it properly, right? But when was the last time so before you ever for Align members, you shake the hand, the submissive handshake, before you ever get a chance to do that, that patient's already experienced and had a lot of first impressions of you and your practice long before that you got a chance to meet them. So again, my objective is to remove speed bumps. If somebody had a bad experience on how they answered a question on the phone about finances or my insurance and things, and that patient they didn't book the appointment to begin with, how do you even know that you had that opportunity for a new patient? How do you know that ball was dropped on a new patient experience? See, you think new patients just are the people that are walking in the door. A new patient experience is every new patient that contacts you, and if you would have handled them properly and were properly trained, which brings up CA coaching again, right? If that component, I'm a numbers guy. I'm talking on the business side. If I spent $1,000 for social media or whatever, if I spend $1,000 to get the opportunity to book the new patient, to see that new patient, I'm paying for opportunities. And if I'm dropping the ball along the way, that's why I said it's a numbers game, right? You could think, well, I spent $1,000. I got 10 people to walk through the door and I keep 3 of them. Well, first of all, that 10 could have been 14, but because we haven't looked at the new patient experience that often, all we know is 10, but there was actually 14 opportunities. So you lost 4. And Dr. Shannon, what's a good case average is going to be $2,500, right? At $2,500 a case, thereabouts. Might be 3, might be 2, might be 5. I don't know, but that's 10 grand. That's 10 grand. And you do that every 30 days. That's $120,000 a year being lost on the new patient intake because you don't even know about the 4 missed opportunities. And then the person came in the door, the grounds outside give a poor impression. then they walk in and then the staff mishandles how they talk about insurance, or they talk about what the expectations are, or they're just not confident and fluent and well-trained or well-dressed. All those first impressions are being made that rather than 3 out of 10, what if we would have just forget the fact that, yes, you can drop the ball once you get into consultation, exam, report of findings, but that's not your end all. Yes, that is a part of your closing percentage, but you could be at 5 out of 10 and still do a horrible consultation, exam, report, but you could be losing 2 out of 10 on the front end. Does that make sense? First of all, there's people that you don't even know about that you're missing out because we don't review the new patient experience. And then there's these people that are dropping out because of reasons that are supposedly outside your control, had nothing to do with their findings on their x-ray or their testing and your ability to convey or not. Maybe you don't have the ability to convey and you're not an AMC aligned member and you don't know what we're talking about when to properly convey the chiropractic message in a way that they're going to accept 80% of the time, right? But so when I talk about the new patient experience, it goes a lot deeper than the consultation, the exam, and the report.
Can you talk a little bit about new patient quality, right? Because this is what we hear on the mentor side. I did this marketing event, I ran this ad, I bought this Facebook stuff, I did this screening, and the 12 new patients in, only 2 accepted care. They were just bad quality. Now, I understand there's varying degrees of quality of new patients depending on things, but I see a lot of doctors kidding themselves by saying, well, it's the patient's problem with the quality. Talk to us about that a little bit if you can.
Bottom line is, now there's different, let me start by first saying, people would say, well, the quality of a screening new patient that came from a screening versus a community health talk or a direct referral, that there are differences. I would say that the only difference in quality that you could really say, okay, there's a statistical difference, is taking any type of marketing new patient and comparing them to a direct referral. All right. Now there is a difference in a direct referral because they're already coming in with an expectation. They're already coming in with a trust factor, and you can't underestimate or undervalue the trust factor. But, honestly, Dr. Shannon, I've been doing this a lot of years, and there's millions of new patients data that I have at my disposal. And statistically, there's really no difference between a screening new patient or someone that came off of a magazine ad or somebody that came off of social media or even a health talk out in the community. Now, I say that because I'm analyzing our type of screening, where I'm analyzing our health talks and our processes. So if you're just out doing screenings and you're shooting from the hip and you don't have a systematic approach, things like, I'll give just one away, like, the one bill principle of you doing a screening and you do the one bill principle that you have to hold your reservation. You've got to give a deposit. That deposit will be either, will be applied to to the new patient process. That's an important component. But as far as once they walk through the door, and I think that's what you're probably trying to get to, in all honesty, the statistics show that once they walk through the door, if you're providing the second mile, you get the third mile free. People are people. People don't go to doctors with small problems. I don't know if they ever did, but they darn sure don't do it in today's world. All right. And you've got a better educated new patient now than you ever have in the history of man. They're coming in, they're looking for what you're wanting. But first of all, people don't have time to kill in today's world, right? They have a need. It's a matter of finding out what's the need behind the need. So, the statistics show, and I just, the facts are that once they walk through the door, if their first impression exceeds what their expectation, did you catch that? If their first impression exceeds their expectation, in other words, you're going above and beyond the second mile, what that place looks like, what that place feels like, how well trained that staff is, how, the processes, the fact that the consultation is done the way we do it, the fact that the doctor is implementing this, a first report of found your problem, would you like to see your x-rays, where we are 5 years, all those little components that are in there. People are people, and you have to stop judging the patient once they walk through the front door. Now, if you've got a marketing thing that you just flat out can't get them to show up, okay, well, that's I don't even know if that's a problem with the quality of new patient. That sounds to me like that's a problem with the quality of your process. Yes, right. Because Dr. Shannon, nobody walks into the front door of a doctor's office, especially into a chiropractor's office, because you weren't their first choice to begin with, right? Most of the patients that are coming to see you, they've already gone down different other avenues and gamuts, right? They've run the gamut. So the audacity to think that somebody's walking in and they're a poorer quality person because they met you at a health fair versus a direct referral is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense, because people are people, and people don't go to doctors with small problems. So it's a matter of, again, what was the purpose of this episode that I wanted to talk about was, when was the last time you experienced your new patient experience? What is it like to call your office, contact your office? What's it like to walk to drive into your parking lot? What's it like to walk in the front door? What's it like? How does it feel? Do I walk in? Does the office feel dated? Does it feel like cutting edge? Does it feel like I'm in the best? What does it feel like? What does it feel like? Listen to me, everybody. I'll finish on this point. You educate or you motivate yourself with reason and fact. You motivate others through emotion. So what is the emotional connection what's the emotional impression that they feel when they pull into your parking lot? What's the emotional connection or impression they feel when they walk in your front door? How does the office feel? How does it feel to be talked to the way your staff talks to them or addresses them or helps them, assists them? What does it feel like in the consultation room? What's it feel like in the exam, the first report, and so on? Because people are motivated by their emotion and their feelings more than the reason and fact, right? That's what I had to add to you.
That's good. Yeah, that is good stuff. And I'll give our listeners a freebie, not knowing where they are in their practice, affiliated with us or not. Don't ever bring a new patient in an empty waiting room if you can prevent it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You have no idea how that feels to the patient, because you are not a good doctor, and you might be the very top dog in your technique, in your town, in your state. But if that waiting room is empty on that new patient experience, you are already swimming upstream.
Man, Dr. Shannon, you're just bringing up, CA coaching is a component that would alleviate that. But I mean, what my mind goes right to cluster booking, right? Cluster booking. If you're only going to see 20 patients in a day and 2 new patients, then see 10 of them and 1 new patient from 9 to 10:30, and see the other ones from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. Spend the rest of your day doing one of 2 things: either getting your butt up and going out and getting some new patients and business, or 2, prepping on how to handle that patient when they do show up. So not spending time on social media, not spending time calling your buddy down the street. So cluster booking is a key component of what you just said, because feeling when they walk in, people go where people go because people go where people go. And if they drive up into a location, you let your staff go early for lunch, right? You're going to see one more new patient right there before you go to lunch at 11:45. You're going to process them. You let your staff go to lunch early. The patient drives into a parking lot and there's 2 cars in them, and they're in one of them. They already know that you're the only person on the premises. They walked into a dead feeling office, and you are going to fight uphill. Does that seal the deal that the patient's not going to be a good patient? No. But didn't I start this episode off with everything's a numbers game? And I want all the odds in my favor. I want to start every month knowing my multiple appointment calendar is booked solid, and I can count on the fact that the odds are, the numbers show that I'm going to get 13, 15, 18 referrals this month, and this is what's going to happen. And when you're able to do that, you're running an efficient, proficient, productive, profitable business that's fun, low stress, and it sustains itself. So you hear me use those terms all the time, but these are all key components that give you the result that you're looking for. Work smarter, not harder.
Folks, the advice that he just gave you is exactly the advice he gave me 24 years ago. It is unchanged because it's a principle, right? Times change, people change, principles never change. You should be building your practice, your career, your business on principle. And if you don't know how to do that, you need to be aligned with a company that's built on principle. And that's us. Until next time, we hope that you will have a great rest of your week and join us next week. God bless. And one more thing before we go. If you're a chiropractor who's searching for a better way to build a more sustainable, low-stress practice, then you can contact us at amcfamily.com. You can schedule a discovery session, or you can access any of our free content, webinars, podcasts, and the like.